Federal judge uncovers disturbing Mueller Rosenstein alliance and their plot to take down Trump, by Amy Moreno for TruthFeedNews.com. If you're wondering why Special Counsel Robert Mueller has so much leeway, look no further than fellow deep state operative Rod Rosenstein, who is the Deputy Attorney General of the United States and the man overseeing the Russia witch hunt. Many wonder why Rosenstein, who has a laundry list of conflicts of interest in regards to the Mueller probe, is allowed to oversee it, not to mention why this man, who is also obstructing the hashtag Spygate investigation, even has a job at this point. Now, a federal judge uncovered an alliance between Rosenstein and Mueller, which is the foundation of a plot to try and take down President Trump. From the Washington Times, understanding why Special Counsel Robert Mueller has widened his Russia investigation beyond the 2016 presidential election may require pursuing a federal judge opinion on June 26 in the Paul Manafort case, after District Court Judge T.S. Ellis III dissected Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein's May 2017 appointment order to Mr. Mueller. He concluded that the prosecutor is empowered to look at virtually any Russian contact, no matter how stale it is. What's more, Judge Ellis said Mr. Rosenstein's guidelines state that Mr. Mueller is to investigate any links between the Russian government and Trump campaign associates, which is expansive. Citing Supreme Court rulings, he said any links also means indirect links or potential links, giving Mr. Mueller wide latitude when deciding whether to target a Trump person. J.D. Gordon, a Trump campaign advisor, said such an expansive definition is why so many people find themselves sitting down with the FBI. Mr. Gordon, a retired Navy officer and former Pentagon spokesman, has gone through combative interviews with congressional committees and the Mueller prosecutors, racking up hefty legal bills. He was summoned partly because he spoke briefly with the Russian ambassador at the Republican National Convention, where the diplomat was a guest sponsored by President Obama's State Department. Mr. Gordon also supervised the volunteer Trump National Security Advisory Committee, whose members included Carter Page and George Papadopoulos, both of whom came under intense Mueller scrutiny. Mr. Papadopoulos pleaded guilty to lying to the FBI about the timing of his meeting with a Moscow-connected professor. In London, Mr. Papadopoulos was trying to set up a meeting between Donald Trump, the candidate, and the Kremlin officials. But no such meeting ever happened, and neither Mr. Carter nor Mr. Papadopoulos has been charged in any conspiracy. In a politically toxic environment like today, the higher you go, the more likely the opposition will push for your investigation, Mr. Gordon told the Washington Times. If and when they manage to haul you before a judge, your fate is basically a roll of the dice based upon the actions of FBI leadership during the Obama administration. The Trump-Russia probes are tyrannical by definition. FBI agent Peter Strzok, a fierce anti-Trump player according to his own text messages, started the investigation of the Trump campaign in late July of 2016, so they say. There is some evidence that the Bureau deployed confidential human sources among campaign advisors. Republicans call them, for what they are, spies, before that date. Judge Ellis issued his ruling in the case of Mr. Manafort, a Republican political consultant who served briefly as Mr. Trump's campaign manager. Mr. Mueller brought charges of income tax evasion and money laundering stemming from millions of dollars Mr. Manafort was paid by the pro-Russian political party of former Ukrainian President Viktor Yanukovych. Judge Ellis has been critical of Mr. Mueller and his top Manafort prosecutor, Andrew Weissman. He accused the Mueller team of an ulterior motive, saying they charged Mr. Manafort as a way to get their true target, Mr. Trump, or President Trump. But Judge Ellis was no help to Manafort on the defendant's motion to dismiss the indictment because the purported conduct had nothing to do with the 2016 election. The judge denied the petition, and in doing so, defined any link as indirect link. Nonetheless, the fact that Yanukovych was a strongly pro-Russian president warranted the investigation here. The fact that the Russian government did not make payments to defendant directly is not determinative, because the text of the May 17 appointment order authorizes investigations of any links and or coordination between the Russian government and individuals associated with the campaign of President Donald Trump, Judge Ellis wrote. He invokes Supreme Court precedent that the term any, quote, has an expansive meaning that is one or some indiscriminately or whatever kind. So in other words, he couldn't dismiss the case because Mueller has he can go any which way he wants. He has free reign. Therefore, the May 17 appointment order plainly authorizes the investigation of indirect links. It authorizes the investigation of indirect links between Trump campaign officials and the Russian government, in addition to more direct connections. In this regard, the May 17 appointment order authorizes the special counsel to investigate defendants' ties with individuals financially and politically supported by the Russian government, even whereas those individuals are not themselves members of the Russian government, the judge ruled. Judge Ellis then used the phrase potential links. In sum, appointment order makes clear that the special counsel's investigation into the payments defendant received from Russian-backed Ukrainian officials was authorized because the investigation involved potential links between a Trump campaign official, the defendant, and the Russian government via the Russian-backed Ukrainian president. That any link, quote, includes potential or indirect links is being played out in other ways. For example, former Navy SEAL Erik Prince, who made a fortune providing private security contractors to governments and corporations, is being investigated by Mr. Mueller over a post-election conversation he had with a Russian hedge fund manager in a Seychelles resort. Mr. Prince, an informal advisor to the Trump campaign, told the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence that the get-together was impromptu in a hotel bar. The Washington Post reported that the meeting may have been planned. Whichever is true, the Prince case shows how the Rosenstein mandate works. If a person met a Russian and had ties to the Trump campaign, Mr. Mueller can investigate him. As a presidential candidate, Mr. Trump was unique. His career was global land development, not politics. In that business, he and his company would naturally make contacts with foreign investors from Russia and many other countries. Mr. Mueller is also examining other post-election contacts. The Post says he is scrutinizing contributions from Russian-linked billionaires to the Trump inaugural committee. Democrats wholeheartedly support Mr. Mueller and defend the FBI's anti-Trump tactics, but more Republicans are starting to say the investigation, nearly 2 years from the time the FBI opened it, should be wrapped up. At a House Judiciary Committee hearing last week, Representative Trey Gowdy, South Carolina Republican, told Mr. Rosenstein and FBI Director Christopher Wray, whatever you got, finish it the hell up. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, a Kentucky Republican, who has supported the investigation, told the Washington Examiner, "What I think about the Mueller investigation is they ought to wrap it up. It's gone on seemingly forever, and I don't know how much more they think they can find out." I mean, really, enough is enough already. But again, you see, it all stems from Rosenstein giving Mueller free rein. And meanwhile, Rosenstein had wrote the letter to Trump advising him to fire Comey. And then Mueller turns around and starts investigating Trump for obstruction of justice by firing Comey. I mean, when Rosenstein had already said it. So Rosenstein has major conflicts of interest besides his wife. I mean, obvious conflicts of interest. And Mueller has free rein. And now, since he has nothing, he's going after the people that were at the inaugural party that are Russian, that contributed to the inaugural campaign, that have nothing to do. It's legal to do that. I didn't know, and we found out it's legal to do that. And so now he's after that. But almost like 2 years now, and now he's looking into this. Why? Because he has nothing. And meanwhile, he's raking in the big bucks. Him and his team are raking in the big bucks while this charade goes on. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And again, thank you so much for watching.